you telling someone like, these are the 3 things she wants in bed, like, that's not going to change your relationship if you aren't compatible, if you don't connect, if you don't speak the right love languages, if you're not empathetic, if you're not vulnerable, like, then that 3 lists of this and 7 lists of that isn't going to do anything.
It's void.
And that's where I'm trying to get to with people, because I don't want people to use sex as a substitute for that. And I don't want people to use sex as an excuse for that. And I don't want people to use sex as a cover-up for not having any of that, because I know, having been in tons of relationships where it was just physical and that's all there was, that's the only time it felt good. It didn't feel good at any other time. I didn't go home with a beautiful feeling in my heart. And then when it's only about that, that's also when it can be easily replaced.
Right.
Because that's easily changeable.
Right.
And that's why I think so many people go through, and I talk about in my videos so much about cheating and loyalty, because when it is just physical, it becomes so much more easier to just disconnect and throw
All
it
those
away.
things happen.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I treat people who have post-traumatic disorder or symptoms of post-traumatic disorder. And so let's say they got post-traumatic stress disorder because a relationship collapsed on them suddenly, which is quite common. You know, they get betrayed or someone leaves them suddenly, and then they don't know what to do, because, especially if they're conscientious, because then they just tear themselves into pieces trying to figure out what they did wrong to bring about that event. And the reason they're doing that is because they want to retool their perceptions and their actions so that the probability that they'll have the same experience again is minimized. And their mind won't leave them alone till they do it. And no wonder, right? Because if you fall into a big pit and you get really hurt, the first thing you should figure out is how to not fall into big pits anymore. And your mind is set up exactly for that. And so what you do with someone who's having problems like that, so maybe they're waking up at the middle of the night obsessing about what went wrong, is you walk them through it. You do a situational analysis first, because one of the oversimplifications that people make, and this is especially true for conscientious people, is if something bad happened to me, I must have done something to deserve it. Now, that's actually a pretty functional idea, because it suggests that there are things about your behavior that you could change that would make the future better.
Hey guys, it's Matthew. I want to talk today about heartbreak. The really tough thing about heartbreak is it's almost, obviously in order to feel heartbroken, in order to feel the pain of loss of somebody, we have to keep going back there in our mind. There are certain times when we tend to go back to that person in our mind more than others. So, for example, when we're not busy, our mind snaps back into a memory of that person, or the moment we feel we're not busy and therefore we're lonely, we feel a sense of loss, and then we think of the person who we wish we were with at that moment. Or of course, when we're going to bed at night, when we're alone and we have time to think and process, that again is a time when at the end of a night we start thinking about that person. It may also be a time when something good is happening. That's the really scary part. It can happen when you are experiencing a beautiful scene, when you're looking at nature, when you are on holiday and you think, God, I wish I was sharing this with that particular person.
First things first is that going through a breakup sucks. And every single man out here, no matter what they say, understands how bad it is to go through a breakup and understands what heartbreak's like. It's difficult, it's not easy. I'd actually like to argue that men feel more heartbroken than women. I think that's
facts.
I think it's true. And I think it's because one of the possessive element that we have, the idea of her being with someone else hurts more than the idea of you being with someone else to her. And secondly, because you have a lot less options than she has instantly. So I think that breakups are worse for men than they are for women. And I understand how difficult and hard they can be. However, the unfortunate reality is that chasing her and being dedicated to her and saying you're going to do whatever she wants, etc., is very unlikely to work. It's very unlikely to work, and you have to look at the scenario you're in, look at the chessboard, and make the best possible move. When you're heartbroken, when you're truly heartbroken, you can't even sleep, and your mind is constantly preoccupied. And instead of seeing that as a negative, what you need to do is use that as a source of unlimited power. If I was truly heartbroken today, let's imagine, and I could barely sleep, I'd be in better shape than I've ever been. I'd train like a fucking animal. You have to just take the energy inside of you. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be converted, whether it's heat into light or the momentum into friction or however you want to put it, right? Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. And you have to look at that and understand that the sadness inside of you is energy. You can't destroy it, but you can convert it into something else which is constructive. And you just have to suck it up, buttercup, and get over it.
I think the challenge in a lot of our lives is that we're surrounded by the same sounds, the same sights, and the same people that we were in our past. And I see this with anything, and I'm sure you felt this. When you went deeper into your faith, did your circles change?
100%.
Right. When you went deeper into your faith, did what you look at change?
100%.
Right. So you look at
my heart changed.
Your heart changed,
because,
but internal and external.
Yes, because for me, when I transformed in my faith, it was the transformation of my heart.
Yes.
Not about what I was actually doing or not doing.
Correct. And that's what I feel for anyone. Anyone that I've witnessed and observed go through transformation in their life, their environments have changed. And so for me, a lot of us are making it harder for yourself. It's like saying, I want to start working out every day, but I don't own any trainers, right? It's like, that's not going to work. It's like doing the opposite. Like, I want to go on a diet, but I'm going to keep chocolate cake in my refrigerator, right? Like, it's that. So you're saying,
you're enabling
I want to get over the past, but I'm going to keep my ex's sweater right next to me, and I'm going to keep all these text messages that I can keep reading through again.
Why do people go back and read text messages?
Because
from someone that broke their heart.
Because nostalgia and imagination is more powerful.
It's like, don't be assuming necessarily that the thing that happened to you only happened to you because of what you did or didn't do. There's all sorts of factors at play. So one of the things that sometimes I do with clients is if they were in a relationship and I can get some reasonable personality information about both of them, I can point out where they were temperamentally incompatible. You know, like if you're a highly conscientious person and your partner is very, very low in conscientiousness, it's like, well, good luck to you two. How the hell are you ever going to work that out? Because you want everything to be exactly where it's supposed to be, and you're working all the time, and your partner could care less whether things were where they're supposed to be, and they're not going to work. And you can butt heads about that forever. The probability that you're going to shift it, you know, except to some minor degree, is very, very low. And so sometimes you end up with someone with whom you get along very well on one temperamental dimension, and you're an absolute catastrophe on the other four. And the probability that you're going to be able to mediate a huge temperamental difference is extremely low. You wouldn't expect yourself to mediate a huge intellectual difference, right? You're going to make the other person smarter, or maybe you smarter, depending on who you're with. It's like, no, probably not.
So sometimes we have the association that when things are bad, that's when we'll get most, well, that's when we'll miss someone the most. But actually, we often miss someone the most when things are good. When we're experiencing something that we know they would love, or we know we would love to share with them. Then I look at this, because you know me, I'm a strategist. I always like to think, well, what's the cure for certain problems? How do we get past these types of pain? How do we quickly move to a stronger place in our lives? And it occurred to me that the key isn't just distraction. Many people go straight for distraction activities. When someone breaks up with them, they go straight to, how can I distract myself? What can I do? How many activities can I fill my day with? How many friends can I invite over every single night so that I don't get lonely and I don't even have time to think about this person? But if you've ever been heartbroken, you know that you can try and fill your day from morning till night with activities and people, but the moment you have time to think again, your brain will snap straight back to that person, that negative thought, that memory that makes your heart ache. You'll go straight back there. So distraction alone isn't a recipe for, or a remedy for curing that heartache.